here to build and discuss as young people. But just to bring it to context, so what you're discussing today is Kenya as a first world country. I'm sure a lot of you spend some time online, and perhaps you've seen conversations about Kenya and us being like Singapore and other related countries. So we'll be having a conversation about that and see whether it's actually ever possible for us to get there. But before we do, I would like to ask you guys a few questions. I have something we call the quickfire icebreaker section, where we'll ask random people, or all of you, a few questions. And whoever gets them right, we have a gift for you. I'm sure everyone likes a gift on a Friday, isn't it? So, are you guys ready? So, the rules of the game for the quickfire questions is that I'll pick the first person who raises their hand. I think the questions are pretty simple. So, if you know the answer, you raise your hand, I'll pick you. So, the person who has the most answers wins the game. And then I will tell them what the prize is. Ready to go? Breathe in, breathe out. Sawa sawa. So, like I said, our conversation is about making Kenya a first world country. But I would like to know whether within the audience, whether you guys know what it means to be a first world country. And for that, let me proceed with the questions. The first question. What are the two pillars, or give me two pillars that define the first world status of a country? Okay, I think that lady was the first one to.
My name is Cynthia. I think the two pillars.
Perhaps you can use the mic as you speak.
This is just a random thought. I think the pillars are the governance and the industrialization of a country. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Close, but not quite it. Anyone else who wants to go? This gentleman over here. You can say your name and then answer the question.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Ochengogola, though I don't feel complete. Yeah. My name is Kevin Ochengogola, a student from the Catholic University of East Africa and a youth leader in Karen Ward. So I feel some of the strong and indispensable characters are strong leadership and strong education. Education system that I think maybe like free secondary and primary education, as to that extent, maybe if we go to other countries, maybe even the university or tertiary level. I don't think so, something like that.
Still close. This lady seems to have an answer.
Hi, my name is Dorothy, and I think the two parameters are the GDP and industrialization. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct. So we have the first answer correct. We'll move on to the second one. So there's only one country in Africa that is considered first world. Which country is this? This gentleman was the first one to raise his hand. So start by introducing yourself. You can stand.
My name is Kevin Saola. He is my youth leader. I would hazard a guess South Africa.
Can we start in a minute? Okay, we can do that.
Ooh.
We want him to finish the quick fire.
Not correct.
He's on question 3 now.
Anyone else who wants to go?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Anyone else? This side, you guys are being left behind. Come on. The gentleman at the back.
Hi everyone, I'm Onyango Regan. I think the most developed country in Africa is Mauritius.
Close, but not quite yet. You already had your first choice.
Thank you. My name is Janet Okumu. I'm from Kipps College, graduating next year, diploma, social work in diploma. So I'm just want to try. I think it's Seychelles.
Correct. So the last two, I'll try and be quick. I think we are short of time. So the third question, how much is Kenya investing to become a first world country? Okay, you are still the first one. So just say
5 trillion.
Yes, correct. And the last one, which year is Kenya targeting to become a first world country? That gentleman at the back. You can pass on. Please.
Hi everyone, my name is Amos Kitonga, and I would like to try. I think is 2055.
Correct.
55.
So unfortunately, only one person got 2 answers correct. But since we are here with a clean heart and you're the first cohort, I think everyone who attempted to answer a question will get free airtime from me today. Asanteni.
They didn't hear you.
They didn't hear me. So like I'm saying, so since only one person got more than 2 answers today, so what will happen is that everyone who attempted to answer a question today will get free airtime from me. Betty, over to you.
Good afternoon. Today, we are asking a very bold question, one that lives in policy documents, in speeches, in Twitter debates. Is it too ambitious for Kenya to become a first world country? Or are we simply dreaming of a Singapore that is too far? When we talk about first world, we're talking about everyday life, about whether young Kenyans can afford food without budgeting like economists, about whether they can afford internet without sacrificing other bills, or they can afford jobs without having, quote unquote, connections. I know someone who may know someone. So Kenya has ambition. We have plans, we have blueprints, and the visions that stretch all the way to 2040. We are a regional powerhouse, we are a tech hub, we are a renewable energy leader on paper. But ambition without execution is theater. Optimism without evidence is noise. But kwa ground, many young people are asking a harder question. When does development stop being promised and start being felt? By the end of this discussion, ladies and gentlemen, we aim to leave you with actions you can feel, not just hashtags you can share. So over the next 2 hours, we will dive into the 4 foundational areas of this transformation: agriculture, energy, modern infrastructure, skilled workforce. And answer the question, can we have Singapore's economy without Singapore's discipline? Can we build a first world Kenya within our lifetime?
And for this conversation is going to be facilitated by the Digital Publishers Association of Kenya. And we are live here at Cooperative University of Kenya in Karen. You can also stream this online. It will be live on kenyans.co.ke, Pars Live Kenya, Business Today, Opera News, Nairobi Leo, Gafla, tuko.co.ke, and the Kenya Times. You can also engage with us online with the hashtag Youth Assembly Platform and First World Kenya. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask, feel free to send in your comments, and we'll pick up the conversation from there. And before I also go on, I would like to introduce a gentleman here called Njogona Wamwana, who will be our fact checker for the day. So he will help us decipher what is true and what is not in the conversation. Over to you, Betty.
Now, for those of us in this wonderful auditorium, and I must say you're all looking fantastic, I need us to have some bit of energy. Let us put our hands together and welcome our debaters. Now, first up, thank you. Now, first up, he's a visionary leader and a distinguished scholar whose career spans the heights of international development and academic excellence. Appointed as the youngest chancellor in the country's history, he brings a wealth of global experience from his tenure with the African Development Bank and the Asian Infrastructure Bank. He's a champion of institutional transformation and a PhD holder in management. He is uniquely positioned to lead today's debate. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Chancellor, the Cooperative University of Kenya, Dr. Bernard William Chitunga. Thank you, Doctor. Now, our next debater is the chairperson, Kenya Power and Lighting Company. She's a public policy and energy governance leader with deep experience in infrastructure partnerships and stakeholder management. Please welcome Joy Brenda Mdivo. Ladies and gentlemen, our next debater is the Advisor, Justice and Human Rights at the Executive Office of the President. He is a constitutional lawyer and a legal scholar with a focus on public law and governance reform. Now, this gentleman has lived in a first world country for more than 10 years. None other than Dr. Duncan Ojwang. A round of applause. And last but not least, he is an entrepreneurship educator and startup coach who turns campus ideas into real companies. Everybody, Michael Kirui. Karibuni sana. This is Youth Assembly Platform, or YAP if you're fancy. My name is Betty Njeru and I will be your moderator for this session. Karibuni sana. Now, debaters, today's theme is Kenya as a first world country. And this discussion will be anchored on 4 key pillars. That is agriculture, energy expansion, modern infrastructure, and a skilled workforce. Now, I do have some ground rules for you as our debaters. We ask that you keep the discourse respectful and that we also respect time. And to our audience, we ask that we keep this conversation as lively as we can and our energy high. We want to engage, we want to hear your thoughts. To help me run this discussion, I will be assisted by my co-host, Anthony Irari, and our in-house researcher, Mwana Wanjogona. A round of applause. Debaters, so we are on the runway. We've boarded the plane. We've done the immigration checks. Let's start our journey. What does a first world country mean to you? Now, to me, a first world country means a country where there's working healthcare systems, that a mother does not have to die in a hospital bed when they're seeking services. A first world country to me means education for all. A first world country to me means equality. There's equality. You will have 2 minutes to make your opening statements. what does a first world country mean to you? Dr. Chichunga, I'd love to begin with you.
Thank you, Betty, and everybody in the room and everybody watching from all the spaces. On behalf of the council and on behalf of the management board of this great university, welcome to Cooperative University of Kenya.
Thank you.
You know, my life, I anchored it a lot through my grandmother. In 2006, she was having cervical cancer and she was on her deathbed. And one day, as a rural boy, she told me, anyone born of a woman and anything done by somebody born of a woman can be anything. Don't rule anyone out. And therefore, when we talk about first world, sometimes the assumptions of the pain of today can cloud our minds not to see the betterment of tomorrow. So first world, it's about the pain of today, being or having the ability to manage that. So we look forward to demystifying that through this conversation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Joy?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
The question itself, as Daktari has alluded, is compound. The question is compound. The question is compound, and it's one of those questions where you cannot approach it in terms of this is the right answer. For the simple reason that first world country is to you what is important to you. So for example, when I was growing up, I grew up in Shaurimoyo. And first world to me would have been to have a house that is self-contained, where I don't have to go outside for a shower or for call of nature. Then you get into a self-contained house and it becomes having an ensuite. And then you get an ensuite, then it becomes a need. Every child has to have their own bedroom. And so for me, it's a moving target. But the one thing that I want to underscore in terms of understanding what first world is to me is where there is a sandwich. It's a balance. That you have systems that work, but they work so that you're able to have a life that matters. That I can enjoy my sweetheart, I can raise my children, we can take holidays, we can have a good quality of life, but also have the time to enjoy it. Because I've been to first world countries where things work, but people are working non-stop. You're meeting at the door when people are going to a shift, you're coming in, and to me that is not a life. So for me, first world is where systems work, but they work enough for me to enjoy why I am working. So that is what first world would be for me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. John.
Thank you.
They're setting you up.
Yeah. I'm using a third world mic. Thank you, University, for the beautiful campus. I think for me, first world will be, I teach human rights. You can have freedom of association or movement. But if you are broke, you can't go so far. You need to pay the fare. You need to pay the plane ticket. You need to pay Uber. And therefore, we have a constitution that have articulated a lot of rights. But the reality of those rights with an empty belly, you cannot practice them well. And therefore, first world country to me is a situation where Kenya will not be so much, when we talk of human rights, they are to be enjoyed. We have only associated them with protest and hard things. They're essentially things to be enjoyed by human beings. And that one we cannot get without much more money. And to have a country, you know, like you're saying, I went to US at the age of 19. I like their stuff, not their things, not their values, but their things. So more of their things this way.
All right. Kirui?
Thank you very much. For me, after listening to everyone, I think for me, first world means shared prosperity. I envisage a situation where institutions work for each and every one of us, regardless of their levels of education, religion, gender, and all these things. It is predictable, where I know that if I go to hospital, I'll find the service that I need. If I go to report something at the police station, it will not matter which side of town I come from. That I am able to enjoy a quality of life in Mandera, the same as someone who is in Nairobi. So for me, it is shared prosperity and also trust in institutions. We need a consistency, an effectiveness that cuts across all the people, so that someone who is born in Turkana does not see the need really of coming to Nairobi, because certain things can only be enjoyed in Nairobi. So for me, if those things come together, then we will have achieved the first world status that we aspire to. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. A round of applause for our debaters for those wonderful responses. And I like how all of you have told us stories. Dr. Chitunga, your grandmother, Joy, Sandwich, Dr. Ojuang, you've told us about, you cannot operate on an empty belly, and to you, Kirui. Now, we've set the foundation for today's discussion. Again, I will remind you that the pillars of the day are agriculture, energy, modern infrastructure, and a skilled workforce. So let's get this show on the road, yeah? So we're talking about agriculture. Dr. Chitunga, can Kenya achieve first world status when it still relies on rain-fed agriculture? And I ask this question because Kenya spends billions annually importing food, including maize. In 2024, maize production fell to 6.1% due to erratic rains. And in this country, less than 5% of arable land is irrigated. Can we achieve first world?
You know, Betty, sometime in 1950s, there was a guy who said, it does not matter whether the cat is black or white, provided that cat can catch the mice. Right? So, first of all, the places we receive the rain, are we able to use that natural resource to be able to produce enough? Right? Because I've grown up in Western Kenya. And sometimes we do plantation in February or March. And we still have the rains in August and in September or in October. Do we optimally use that? And therefore, the question we are asking ourselves, this first class or first country, first world, first nations, these developed countries, it's about the inside, because we can start talking big about using greenhouses and ensuring that we have all this irrigation. But have we set and worked on our mindset so that the little we have, we can start on a journey? And just to flip, because Singapore asked themselves, what did they have? They said we only have 1.3 million people in a small island. So first of all, we need to ask ourselves, what amounts of rain do we have? We have this. So the whole of Western, Central, North Rift, South Rift is able to feed this country well enough before we start. So you have to go back to the basics before we pull to the next level. So our agrarian revolution needs to be consolidated enough. Then we can be able to continue on the journey to mechanization and to coming to the levels where we want to go to.
So what you're saying is we need to put some things in order first before we can achieve first world. Joy, is this failure, is this a policy failure? Is it a climate issue? Is it a governance problem?
No, it's a little bit of everything. Let me just pick it up from where Dr. Ari has left it off. What do you have in your hand? This is something that I see in the Bible when God was asking Moses. All he had was a staff, but with the staff he was able to liberate people and lead them to the promised land. We've had stories of countries like the United Arab Emirates or like Israel that are basically desert, but they've been able to pull, you know, something out of nothing. So when I look at what we have in Kenya, we have plenty. We have plenty, but the problem with having plenty sometimes is that you get too used to it. For example, in Kenya right now, even with the little that we're producing, about 20 to 30% of that post-harvest losses.
Yeah.
We don't conserve even what we have created. Why? We don't have good storage, we let it get contaminated, poor infrastructure means transportation is a problem. It's little things that make us lose the plot. However, do we have to have irrigation agriculture for us to reach first world status? I don't think so. Because we've lived in this Nairobi and we know you either grow your food or you buy it. Our kids think that maize grows in the supermarket because that's where they get it from.
Yeah.
So we don't have to grow the food ourselves. We need to just generate enough resources that if we need food, we can get it for our people in the masses. Why? Because if you look around the world, everywhere you have got agriculture as a mainstay of the economy, the farmer is seriously subsidized by the government. We don't have spare change. That means agriculture is not yet such a draw that people will want to invest in it as an economic activity. So is it better for us to buy cheap food from somewhere else? Maybe that's a conversation we need to have. Look at our arable land. Let's take, for example, a neighboring county, Kiambu, some of the best arable land in the country. What do we have there? Flats. Are we even thinking strategically about where we are putting some things? Because if you look at, for example, a country like the UK, they intentionally zone their lands so people settle in villages and leave agricultural land for agriculture. In Kenya, I don't think so. Kila mtu mogodane title. Once you have your title, you do with it what you want.
Whatever you want.
So unless we start thinking different and making intentional steps. So if we talk about land consolidation, affordable housing is happening. How many of us are willing to leave that 2-acre plot that our father left us, move into an affordable housing plot and let that land produce food for the rest of Kenyans? Our mindset needs to change. That's where I would start.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Let's appreciate that point. A question to the audience. Raise your hand if your household has felt the increase in food prices in the last 2 years. Raise your hand if your household has felt the increase in food prices in the last 2 years. Panel, are we seeing those hands? Are we seeing that? I think that should inform even this conversation that we are having today. Dr. Juang, let me come to you. Joy says, or rather she asked, are we thinking strategically? And that we need to change our mindsets, yeah? So should Kenya then prioritize food self-sufficiency over export of crops like tea and flowers?
Of our comparative advantage. Because that's what Singapore did, to Dr. And we have a show here, we have what can we do? So, of course, you know that you know that Singapore will be the sum total of what we do every day. So it's not like a super magic bullet or something. It is a sum total of everyday choice. Every day you choose not to spit on the concrete, you are getting closer to Singapore and getting us closer to Singapore as we go on. But right this week, United States extended AGOA for Kenya.
Yes, by 3 years.
Yes. You know that South Africa developed because their farmers were able to be most favored nation to export their produce directly to the US market. These things we produce here, if we can take advantage of AGOA. And I'm just giving that as an example of the good things that we already have as a country. That if you look at Africa, other countries' relationship with the US is not as steady. But you can see that Kenya is the first African country that have an extension of AGOA. And with that, we can produce, we can do comparative advantage of what we can produce better and export and earn foreign credit, so that if you look at the constitution, there is right to food or right to nutrition. But we need money. We must be able to feed our people. And because of that food security, they brought the issue of land. Kenya bill has reached where the discussion, other people have huge land that they are not doing anything about. And Kenya have not come to the issue of land and addressed the issue of land. The constitution tried it a little bit, but we have not put maximum acreage. And there should be maximum acreage, because why will somebody own the entire Nyanza province just because the Tomboya sessional paper of 1965, and instead of helping the country, the leaders help themselves by taking that money and taking the land, and now we have people owning huge tract of land, and they are fallow, they are there, they are walking with their horses, they are landing with their chopper, and they are hunting deer and feeling good after that. Let me tell you that the people I interact with, there are two kind of Kenyans. There are people who are already in Singapore. So don't think we are on the same boat. There are those who have those ranches. There are those who fly first class. There are those who already can buy whatever they want, iTunes, iPhone, and watch any movie and go anywhere in the world. This is not their conversation. Whether you get to Singapore, it's for the masses. But there are a few people, especially the ones who are cynical about Singapore, are already living the first class kind of world. Their children are in the first world. They go there for vacation. They have their clothes from first world as compared to us. And then they come and being cynical and say, Singapore mtafika kweli. So let us know that it is about egalitarian, the majority, the many of us who are not in Singapore, because there are some who are already enjoying the first world status with their many acres of land, yet people are squatters.
Absolutely. Dr. Ojwang, having said that, are we feeding Kenyans or are we feeding the economy?
What's the difference? Why is that an oxymoron? Kenya or economy? What do you mean?
Because you're saying there are Kenyans already in Singapore, and yet that's not the majority of Kenyans.
Okay, I get you. Because you see, even sometime we were talking of Africa rising. And then the question came, rising for who? Because there is a way you can simply look at the indicators and talk of a country is doing well, but is it well for Mama Mboga? And that is why the powerful words like bottom-up, Mama Mboga became almost a revolution. Because for the first time, Kenyans were talking of those ordinary people. So yes, economy can do well, but it doesn't mean that people are feeling it. So right now, if you look at building the markets for the local person, if you look at the construction, if you come to my place in Homa Bay and construct a highway with whoever contractor and wherever they came from, then they leave. Then people don't even have money to put their vehicles there. How about if you could come with a model, which some country like Britain have done, where is it written that for people to get into a tender, they must be billionaires? We can pool resources as people in the local, 100,000, get that tender, that money remain in my village, the road remain in my village, then we are happy ever after. But bottom line, I would rather each generation have their generational call. We will rather fight on why are we not like Singapore than simply fold our hands and see things business as usual or status quo. That is more doomful for me.
Thank you. Kirui, over 70% of farmers in Kenya are smallholders, yeah? Many of them sell produce at low farm gate prices while consumers pay high retail prices. Who do you think agriculture is really working for? Is it the small-scale farmers or is it the middlemen?
For me, building on what they've said, I think we need to bring the place of dignity back to agriculture, because when you look at the contribution to our GDP, you have services at 55%, agriculture at between 20 and 25%. But when you look at how many are we graduating, how many have we developed the way we do agriculture, or has it remained stagnant? To answer to what the Chancellor said, did it remain stagnant where we are still doing things the same way we've done? And the land practices that we have now make small holder farmers even more, because we have not properly articulated how much land or the land use practices that we're going to have. So for the majority of the part, if, for instance, where I come from, if my father has 5 sons and he has 20 acres, the next generation, it means we will have 4 acres. Is it as productive? And that happens. Does it make sense? That's a very valid question. Same thing happens, and it's actually quite sad when you have coffee or sugarcane in certain areas. So when you ask about smallholder or
Middlemen.
Actually what happens, as you become smaller, middlemen become even more necessary. Yes. So have we, and that goes to what Prof was saying, someone has too much, it's not being shared. The other person who has 20 acres, 30 acres, which would have been more productive, and hence they're able to pool and then now organize themselves a lot better. They've now split it because they had 5 sons, and now they have 4 acres each. So now they're now smallholders. So does that feed us? And if we keep doing this, to what end? When will it stop? And will it take us to where we need to be, or will we remain stuck? So that builds on what Joy and the Prof and even the Chancellor has said. What are our land practices? And then again, is there dignity in actually even doing agriculture? How many of us go to Calro or to Kari to find new practices? What is the best seed? Are we investing in the capabilities and the human resource to be able to take us to a level where we are able to do agriculture in a sustainable way? Yes.
Joy, I saw you not doing so much in agreement. You want to say something?
Yes, in agreement, and also just to put a spin on it, as Kenyans, we also need to start thinking more away from let the government do this, let the government do that, let Calro, let Kemri. I'm taken to what Bishop Masika does in Yatta. So he has this operation, he had this operation Molio Out. So just quickly how it works. He decided that enough is enough. He saw something on the news about a lady in his Ushago who they got so hungry, they killed a dog. That's what they had for dinner. And that just broke his heart. And he went back home and told people, okay, it doesn't matter what you have. What you're going to do, we're going to work together. So what do? He, because he has summered a little bit, he's in the city, find the market in Agoa or wherever. Get a good market. What are their specs? What do they need? They need capsicum of this quality, or they need chili peppers of this quality. Okay, fine. So go get that seed. Come back to the village and tell everybody. What we are going to do is all of us in our cooperative, because they form a cooperative, all of us in our cooperative are going to plant this seed. We are not going to use fertilizer, we're not going to, and they all cooperated, over 1,000 farmers, some with 1 acre, some with 5 acres, some with 3 acres, and they all plant whatever they have agreed. When the day for harvesting comes, you don't have to look for the middleman to sell your 1 acre. Because all of you, your harvest is getting ready at the same time, the buyers come to them, buy, and they go and export. And we are saying now these days, when you look at the airplanes going over Yatta, we are not thinking of where are those people going. We are seeing there go our chili peppers, and the dollars are in our pocket. What did they do? They also formed a cooperative. So when the money is paid out, even if I gave 1 acre, because of the economies of scale of all of us, I got the same price for my 1 acre as somebody with 20 acres got. What does that do? Everybody has got shared prosperity. What did they also do? They formed the cooperative, started the AFOSA. So they put all their money in their own cooperative. So they're not taking it to the bank. So if you need a loan, you are loaning yourselves and you're paying yourselves interest. What happened is that entire village, Simini Chewa Kenya Power, we had refused to give them power before because they couldn't afford to pay for a transformer. They went ahead and started producing their own power from biogas. Guess what we did? we took the transformer ourselves and asked them if they would consider being our customers. Because once you start pulling yourself up, people want to associate with success. And so those guys decided we will not die here, but it took one neighbor working with another, collaborating with another. But what do we do now? If I get good seed somewhere, I plant it myself. You there, you're planting your other bonoko seed. The cross-pollination happens. Both our crops fail. We blame each other. Oh, you put magadi in my shamba, that is why my things are not. Oh, it is Obulosi, the village people have got me. Mindset. That's why I keep talking about, we want to get to a place, yes. But as Kenyans, we have to, because the middlemen you're talking about take real advantage of the smallholder farmer who can get his crop to the market. That guy hasn't slept looking at I saw the guys on the news yesterday chasing birds with fire. I was like, surely in this day and age, we are still using fire to chase away birds from our shambas. Mindset change so that we embrace a different way of doing things.
Absolutely. Dr. Chitunga, quickly, before we come to the audience, I could see you also making a face, you know. What would a first world agricultural value chain look like in Kenya?
You know, Betty, quickly.
Yes.
At the start of what we are talking about first world, first of all, you know, this first world thing, when Alfred Savi came up with 3 worlds, 1 planet, he said first world is the US and West Europe. Then he said second world was that communist bloc. And then the third world, he said the rest. The rest was Africa and Asia. And mostly those who are trying to unlock themselves to get independence.
Yeah.
So, how did Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, or Singapore, South Korea get to be called Asian tigers?
Yeah.
So let's go back there. At that beginning, when we were all the rest, in fact, we had slightly a higher GDP than Singapore. So what happened? There were women and men who stood up. Like the founding father of China stood up on that day and said, the Chinese people have stood up, have risen. There was the founding father of Singapore who asked the question that my people, the Indians, the Chinese and the Malaysians, we are 1.6 million. We are just an island. What do we have? Then they said, we are between Europe and Asia. We have position. Therefore, it all starts with leadership. At the top, where a woman or a man will lay an ambitious vision with courage, with clarity. And then now that, those countries, the rest, how they started is that this man then builds a smart government. The smart government starts to enable private sector, it starts to open up for civil society, and it starts to ensure that there is an enabled environment. And then those men ensure that people go to school. So all these things we are talking about fair, about having ng'ombe around our ng'ombes, and all these things. We get people to school. Once we get people to school, people will do the right thing. Sometimes we go to school, but the school does not go through us. And you wonder, these things that we are doing. And therefore, the leader of this country has set forth a vision. And therefore, the question goes to Dr. Juang as a senior advisor.
Yeah.
First of all, did he go to school well so that school went through him, so that then he can run with that vision? Then Joy as the chair of Kenya Power, offering leadership to the distribution of power in this country. Is she able now to cascade that vision down? And all of us, myself, given the responsibility to get this university to be an elite. It calls for courage. It calls for discipline. That's what happened in those countries. That is why today, China, in one generation, where it was in fact, there were only 10 poor countries below China 40 years ago. 10. That means it was one of the poorest. But today is the second largest economy in the world and the first in purchasing power. So leadership, 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 and everybody else towing the line.
Let's appreciate that point. I want to bring in my co-host now and just to take some questions and comments from the audience. But a reminder to all of us here in this auditorium today, the hashtag to use is Youth Assembly Platform and First World Kenya. Anthony, what do you have for us?
Like the Chancellor has said, leader, leader, leader. So who wants to lead in asking the first question? Yes. So start by stating your name and then keep it very brief. You can address whoever you want to address in the question.
Thank you. My name is Eunice Mburu. I'm the CEO of 20X Entrepreneur. We help micro enterprises accelerate their businesses. My question is to the Chancellor. He talked about leadership. When you say leadership, is it the President? Is it only Joy and Dr. Ojwang, the leaders? And what is the role of the citizen as we call upon the leaders? What is the role of the citizens?
Chancellor, hold that thought. We'll take another question before he goes to proceed to answer. So I think we have asked one from this audience. Is there anyone who has a question on this side? So there's a lady at the back. Again, make it very brief. State your name, what you do, and then ask the question.
Thank you again. I'm Janet Okumu. I'm happy to be here. I'm from Kipps College. Okay, my question goes to Chancellor Chitunga. Kindly, earlier you said that we have enough rains. Maybe from that rain, we can make or produce food that's enough to cater for the whole country. But me, I'm challenging you, or I'm asking you about the rains. Nowadays, our rains are very unpredictable. Like last year, earlier October, from September, August, we didn't have rain, especially where I come from, western sides. I may give example, please. Like after planting the maize, after cultivating, the rains disappeared. So we ended up cutting for the animals. So how many countries did it harvest for the second harvest? Another example, I might dig it from Joy. You saw yesterday. Yes, we have enough rains. Like in Kisumu, they have planted their rice. But even the birds are just coming and swarming the whole plantation. How can we get the solution to certain things for we to have enough food for the country? Thank you.
Can I
For
go
the Chancellor?
with that? Yes, and my
Over to you.
panelists can help me. Let me start with you, my dear. So, because of climate change, in fact, a few years ago we had a lot of drought. So what we were putting across, it was not that we have enough rains. No, the question is that the little we have had, have we optimally used it? Sometimes we jump to bigger things, right? You want a spade, but you have not used even the spoon in the right way. Those basics, you know, block by block, this building, it was brick by brick. So the question is, you come to my village in Chegulo, in Kakamega, and there's somebody who has land, there's rain, you don't do anything, but you are advocating that you want to move to that next level for you to have something. So the thing was, it was not about that we have enough rains. There is a challenge because of climate change and we are so hit, but the little we have, like we will have some little rains maybe inshallah in August and in September. When we go home, you'll find nobody's planting vegetables and all that, but we are looking for bigger things. And a quicker one for citizens. Singapore and China, and not to be misquoted, they are successful dictatorships. Singapore and China are successful dictatorships. When the president says something, it is law. It takes course. We are privileged to have an open democracy. the citizens in those countries, and I live in Beijing, I sit in Beijing, when the bureau sits and says, this is the pathway, I have never had my colleagues engage the way we engage. For us, even before the president finishes a statement, we are already arguing. The role of citizen. And of course, it is because of years of trust issues between citizens and government. But it reaches a time, moments in the history of countries, when leadership is offered as citizens, then we say, okay, we have marked time for long, then let's move. President Ruto didn't come from anywhere. I didn't vote for President Ruto myself, but he honored me to be chancellor. Now he's my president. He is our president. And he has said, I'm looking at human capital. I'm looking at agriculture. I'm looking at energy. And I'm looking at this value addition. My question should be, okay, Mr. President, share more details. When more details are shared, because I'm in the education space and I'm in the infrastructure space, then I will try to contribute in that space without just complaining and saying how it is impossible, without even appreciating the thing. The other day I saw the National Infrastructure Fund. The cabinet just said we have approved. Somebody already went to court. I've not even seen the document. You see, so the thing is, citizens and leadership, we are all citizens. We have to appreciate something in totality. Those countries, that's why they say they are successful dictatorships. We are democratic, but can we pause, understand, question objectively, and progress?
If I could just add something about the question that my sister asked about what do we do with that little rain. I gave the example of Yatta earlier. One of the things that they do in Yatta, as you know, Yatta, Ukambani, water is a problem. But they realize they get 1 or 2 major rainfalls in a year. And they started this thing where every homestead digs a silanga. Silanga is a water pan, for those who do not know. So like I said, they formed a cooperative of like about 1,000 farmers. So on Monday, all of us meet at Danko's farm, everybody with their djembe, and they have gone, they all dig and dig. After 1 week, he has a silanga. Then they move to Joy's farm. Then they move to Bernard's farm. Then they move to Kiri's farm. Before long, everybody has a big hole in their compound. What they're doing, they're waiting for the rain. When the rain comes, everybody has a small lake in their compound. And that is what they use for their irrigation. And that is why now, if you go to Yatta, it's still a desert. But because each home has its own little water source, they're able to produce their chilies and their capsicum throughout the and onions throughout the year, because they found a local solution that works for them. So sometimes, however agrarian the solution, working together, we create our own solutions. Western Kenya, we have a problem. It is God's bathroom. We are used to a lot of rain. So when it doesn't come, we are all flabbergasted. It is time even us to start looking at ourselves. What responsibility do we bear for taking care of the environment? The Kakamega forest used to be densely populated with trees. Tunaingia ndani tunakata, so inje tumewacha bado kuna forest, lakini katikati we've done bad things. Sometimes even as citizens, we shoot ourselves in the foot. Then we start crying with one eye. We need to take responsibility for where we are. If we each kept our corner clean, the whole country would be fine.
Maybe just to add very briefly for a minute. If you see the amount of anger developed by some Kenya, just that they had somebody talking of Singapore. So you wonder, is it the name Singapore that have annoyed them? Is it the idea that is driving them to suicidal thoughts? And if you take the press and the money in the hotels discussing why we can't go to Singapore, it's enough to teach Kenya's children. And that shows you the mindset. Because we cannot generate hope from what the past has been. There is a lot of publication about why we are not in Singapore, why we lost from 1970 and coming up to here. If you look at our citizens, and I've been a teacher, Africa only produces 1% of world knowledge. actually 2%. And that 1% is between Nigeria and South Africa. So all these universities and all this claim of give us money, produce only 1% of world. So that is academia. There is a time the young people in South Africa met and said, let us indigenize our curriculums. Kenya, university students, demonstration, kuna kunguni kwa doms. So look, that will not get us to Singapore. Everyone is a leader, and everyone must do something different from where they are. So that when we have a discussion, for example, even if it's about Singapore, it has to be constructive. But what we have in Kenya is silliness. Because we know the history of Kenya from the first president, second president, third president, fourth president. We know Professor Nyong'o have written about what went wrong. People have gone to Singapore, have seen what happened. Singapore started by saying, you know what, put CCTV everywhere. You are found chewing gum with mouth opened, you are spanked. That cannot happen in Kenya. But the discipline and the role of citizen are very critical if we are to move any step further.
All right.
I know there are students in the room, and I'm sure you want to answer Daktari, but hold your horses. Your time is coming. Hold on.
Kunguni are not good though.
We have a very important person in the room, Mwana Wanjogona, who's our fact checker. We have had discussions on the first pillar, which was agriculture. So I'm sure there are so many bold statements that have been made, and Mwana perhaps has something you'd like to talk about on that. Mwana, about you.
Good evening, everyone. So mine is not to necessarily say what is wrong, but is to add on to what they have said. We said we are here to debate, think, and build. And for us to build, knowledge is a very key factor, all right? Now, let's start with Kiambu. The thing about Kiambu is interesting because over the last few years, between 2000 and 2015, about 15 to 20% of agricultural land in peri-urban areas has been lost. Arable land has been lost between 2000 and 2015. So in terms of numbers for Kiambu, I'll give in terms of acres. So the total land in Kiambu County is 627,300 acres. Now out of that 627,000, 464,000 acres is considered arable. That's land we can farm on. Now out of the total land in Kiambu, only about 140,000 is used for farming. In terms of buildings, about 210 acres, right? That's the amount of in terms of buildings, flats, whatever, that is in Kiambu County. So when we talk about Kiambu County not utilizing its potential, that's on the nail is on the head. Now, something else that was mentioned, perhaps we need to clarify, Kari, the Kenya Agricultural Research Institute. He mentioned it in short, I'm just giving you in full on what they do. Right now, most of their responsibilities are being consolidated with something we all know, the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, KALRO. There's something about China and Singapore. For China, we might know. For Singapore, kidogo. Now, in terms of what we check for a country to be considered a dictatorship, among the key things is that number of ruling parties, existence of competitive elections, concentration of executive power, political freedoms, that's media, opposition, civic society, mandamano and the likes, and the term limits and leadership succession. Now, in terms of China, one-party system, that we all know. No competition, no competitive national elections. The power is concentrated around the party leader, strict limits on political opposition and press freedom. That much is what you'd expect in a dictatorship. In terms of Singapore, however, there are multiple party systems with regular elections. Opposition parties regularly operate and hold seats in parliament, independent judiciary and functioning state institutions, as well as restrictions on speech and political activity, but not total bans. So it does not meet the definition of, the strict definition of dictatorship. However, there are some dictatorship tendencies. Now, the final thing, in terms of Africa and research, it's true, our research only contributes about 1% of global scientific research. Africa contributes about 1% of global scientific research. Some estimates actually put it between 0.72% and 1.1%. A few countries dominate. That's South Africa at 25%, Egypt at 22%, and Tunisia at 8.6%. Together, they produce more than half of all scientific research papers on Africa. Some top contributors include Nigeria, Algeria, Morocco, and us, Kenya. Key thing to note, in terms of, this is sad, African nations only invest about 0.59% of our GDP in research and development. Our president wants us to invest about 1 trillion shillings to ensure that we can actually equalize this. Significantly lower than the global average of 1.79%. In terms of the countries that actually do invest so much, that's South Africa and Tunisia that are among the leaders on the continent. That's it for now.
Okay, can we appreciate our researcher, Manawan Chugona? Thank you so much. Dr. Chitunga, it seems there's a target on your back because everyone wants to ask you the questions today. Listening to all 4 of you, I am hearing certain things that all point to the same direction. I am hearing there's a need for, it starts with the leadership. It starts with the mindset change. It starts with the role of citizens, ourselves in this room. What role can we play? We need to take responsibility, yeah? And as we move into the next discussion, I would like to throw this to the audience, just something for you to think about. What would it mean for your household if food were affordable, if it were predictable and locally produced? And what role can you, as a citizen of Kenya, personally play? Think about that. Joy, electricity supply in Kenya accounts for 7.9% of Kenya's GDP growth. Now, this sector, in the last financial year, 2024-25, it received 61.6 billion. The government of Kenya says it is actively working to position Kenya as a global green energy powerhouse. This is in the president's own words. But power outages and high tariffs remain common. Can Kenya be first world when millions still lack reliable electricity?
You know, you've asked a few questions in one.
Yes, I have.
First, you've asked about the cost. You've talked about reliability. You've talked about the outages. You've talked about its role in the GDP. So let me try and just do a mashup in this power thing. One of the things that I found when I joined the energy sector, because my background is law, I'm not an engineer. So I get appointed the board of Kenya Power, and in fact, I think we're with Duncan at some point. And it was a steep learning curve into this energy thing. And the first thing that I learned about energy across the world, it is not cheap to produce power anywhere on earth. Not cheap. It is very expensive to produce power. The components are expensive. You've talked about research and development. Most of the places, if you want better technology that's working better, it means you're investing even up to 20% of what you're making into research and development to get better solar panels, better conductors, better this and that. So people spend a lot of money to improve power. Then the thing with power, especially in Kenya, you produce it, you transmit it, you spend it. So the power that we're using now is coming real time from where it's being generated. Meaning we don't store power, in Kenya anyway, we don't store power somewhere that we can keep power in a bottle and we keep releasing like a tap. So if you're not using power, whoever is generating either stops generating or redirects it to somewhere else. I'm laying this foundation to help Kenyans understand it's a moving target.
Okay.
The thing with power as well, once people start using power, they use more of it. And so you find if there's only so much power available, all of us take a sip and we are happy with the sip. Before long, the next time it comes, you want a gulp. So maybe you enter into your house and that time you just have a TV, your laptop, and maybe you have a toaster. Then unaomoka kidogo unanunua microwave. Kidogo kidogo unachoka kufua unanunua washing machine. Kidogo kidogo. So we find that incrementally each of us start getting addicted to the use of power. That means you spend more on power. Where the energy sector is stacked, everybody in the energy sector gets their money through Kenya Power and Lighting. So the people who generate power
Okay.
get paid when I collect money. The people who transmit power get paid when I generate money, when I collect the money. There are people who live in places where the grid does not reach. Northeastern where, so they have what we call thermal plants, diesel generators, and some solar plants. We call them the COSA project. Their power costs me a whole lot more than the rest of you. But I collect through you to help them to get power. So that fuel cost for their generators passes through me. So at the end of the day, if you look at your bill, it is collecting money on behalf of very many people. So the power itself there may cost you maybe about 50% of the bill is what is actually going to, this is your power bill. But we will collect on behalf of the regulator, collect on behalf of Warma, collect on behalf of KenGen and the other power producers. And so it's not just a discussion of power is expensive to the consumer. Power is expensive, period. Now, we got into a situation around 2018 where Kenya started accelerating in growth, spreading. In fact, there were like 3 million customers, and then we went up to like 8 million customers. But the infrastructure remained the same. And so it is stretched because think about that wire. If it can only carry 100 units, even if you've got people needing 200 units, it can only carry 100 units. But what do Kenyans do? Most of the places, if you've got Karen here, you've got Kibera here. They know the power passes through here to get to Karen, so what do? We start spidering. So before long, the guys in Karen are suffering outages because people have learned how to steal power. And Kenyans, we steal a lot. Because the amount of losses that when Kenya Power is talking about having like 23% in terms of loss, commercial losses, a lot of it is also people who have illegal connections. They have drilled their meters or nyonga meter. You had kunyonga meter. Kunyonga meter is a thing. And when that loss happens, EPRA allows us to recover part of that loss from the rest of you who are still paying. So the question of the cost of power and what it does to our GDP is a compound question. If I flip the coin to where Ojwang was talking about earlier, I've been in countries where the cost of power is a lot higher than ours. But because it is reliable, it is there all the time, and people make a little bit of shillings, they actually don't mind paying. If you talk to big industries, all they want is make sure it's available and it is constant and it is consistent. That is their priority. Because once you have power that is consistent, I'll keep my factory going, I'll make the money back. So it's a matter of the chicken and the egg. We want to help our domestic customers, but at the same time, because all of us are sharing one grid, the domestic customers sometimes make it impossible for the grid to remain at a place where it is benefiting everyone. But we are getting better at it. When I joined Kenya Power, I would spend nights at the National Control Center because we've had a national power blackout. I think nishaenda kesha tatu huko. This last year, 2025, I don't think I went there even once. Not for the Kesha anyway, and for other things. So we are getting better, but a lot of money needs to go in investing in expanding our grid. So just to finish on this point, we've hit over 10 million domestic customers now. These are the guys, the homes. Kenya overall, we are about 78% coverage. Where we are, fact check out Yuko pale.
Electricity,
okay, we're 70 something, we're 70 something. But I think we are up to 78% coverage, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
But we need more we need more industrial consumers to come into the market rather than domestic consumers. Now, why I'm slowing down here is because Kenyans only look at power in terms of facilitating life. But for it to drive the economy, we have to attract industries to consume more power. As it is, because of the quality of our grid and the disruptions, most factories, because they need more consistent power, they're leaving the grid and they're doing something different. What does that do? It means the guys who are actually paying me money to cross-subsidize the domestic are no longer my customers. And so can I afford to make things cheaper for the domestic customer? I can't. So my plea, so for example, like this month, we've lost over, I think it was 40 transformers to vandalism in Nairobi alone.
Wow.
Once you vandalize, that thing cost me 2 million shillings to replace, because when a transformer has been vandalized, KP is the one that replaces it. Across the country in the first half of this year, we lost 500 transformers to vandalism or overload that caused it to blow. each costs me 2 million shillings to replace. That is 1 billion shillings that has come out of my pocket that is going to be recovered from all our bills. Kenyans, we need to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. It's a, like I keep saying, mindset shift. Wewe unachukua waya unakunja. I mean, how is Kenya? We don't have a single copper mine, but we export copper. From where? If not from infrastructure.
Yeah.
You're given road infrastructure, we are given electricity, and then tunakata hiyo chuma tuna smelt, ndo tunauzia mshaina anaeka kwa yani, we need to start loving ourselves a little bit more, because if we get to a place where we make the energy sector sustainable, we attract the kind of investment that eventually makes it cheaper for all of us.
In one response, Joy, thank you so much. In one response, you've introduced us to different players in this entire sector. You've talked about the one who generates the power, the one who transmits, the collector, the industrial domestic consumers. Who benefits from Kenya's energy sector as is currently structured?
Who benefits, or who do we collect on behalf of?
Who benefits?
As in who I collect money for? Or?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, first and foremost, of course, the energy producers.
Yes.
Anybody who sells me power needs to get paid. By law, I'm supposed to pay them within 30 days, but right now we are at around maybe 80, 85 days. But everybody who generates power, we pay them. So that's KenGen and the private guys.
Okay.
We also collect money for EPRA. EPRA is a regulator.
Yes.
So they collect from petroleum and they also collect from energy. So that helps them to keep us in check and to keep regulating the prices na kila kitu. We collect on behalf of Warma, the water people. Why? Because there are some hydro plants. They charge us for using the cascades to generate power. We also collect on behalf of, who else? If you have a bill, they usually have a breakdown. Who else is on that bill? But you collect... Or yeah, on behalf of Ketraco, the transmission company. Because the one, now transmission is a different function from ours, which is distribution. So we collect on behalf of the entire energy sector. And and we also collect Forex, the Forex exchange. So because everybody who's selling us power, even KenGen sell it to us in US cents. So that Forex differentiation, because we collect our money in Kenya shillings and we pay them in dollars. We are allowed to recover that differentiation. And like I said, the fuel that is used in the thermal plants, in the off-grid stations, again, we collect to pay for that heavy fossil fuel that is used. So those are some of the items you will see in your bill when you pay.
Okay. Kirui, let me come to you. Joy says that it is not cheap to produce power anywhere in the country. And in the world. And currently, Kenya positions itself as a renewable energy leader. Why do you think it is so expensive? Why is power so expensive in a country rich in renewable energy?
Before you answer,
okay.
Energy is even more expensive than fossil fuels. When you use coal, for example, your cost of producing power is almost like 5 cents per unit. But for you to produce solar, because you have to have an element of storage, it's a lot more expensive than producing. So renewable energy is actually quite expensive energy. Thing is, it's abundant. And because it is renewable, it's always available, unlike fossil fuel. So just to throw that there, over to Kirui.
Yes.
To steal Kiruis.
Yes, Dr. Chitunga, you can do that.
This university is going to be the first university to produce power to the grid. This cooperative university. We have just been given a go-ahead by EPRA to produce 40 megawatts. 40 megawatts. And October this year, we will bring the president and Joy here, our boss who will be paying us, to commission 40 megawatts. The project is going to cost us $50 million.
Yeah.
US dollars.
50 million US dollars to put up a 40 megawatt solar plant. Where are we getting that money? The university does not have that money. Treasury does not have that money. We are doing operational innovative financing where we are getting a partner, Dahai Shandong China, to put in the money and then operate for this number of years and then they will transfer. So the university will get some small revenues, and it will not be paying their powerful bills to Joy, but I will always be on Joy every month to pay us. So what are we saying? Energy is too expensive, so expensive for such a thing. And Joy, the president is talking about 10,000 megawatts. Can you imagine 40 is 50 million?
Compared to
10,000, how much trillions of dollars? So it is too expensive. That is why then the proposition by the head of state to get an alternative way of financing energy infrastructure is so important. It cannot be financed by taxes. It cannot be financed. That's why you need an alternative balance sheet. You need a vertical fund called infrastructure fund or a national sovereign wealth fund, so that you can have an alternative balance sheet and go out there and get. Elon Musk was paid $1 trillion on 31st December, right? Elon Musk was paid $1 trillion on 31st December as dividend. So you go out there using such instruments to tap such money so that Joy's infrastructure chain can be enhanced, can be developed. Pole Kirui.
Thank you. I think after Joy has said all that she said, I look at it and wonder, how do you remain afloat? Because everyone has a handout and they expect to be paid, and you are not assured of being paid by the people who are consuming electricity. And also you've mentioned that there are other people who are leaving the grid. So I look at it and I'm like, Kenyans, honestly, we expect Joy and Kenya Power to consistently give us power. And yet Joy is telling us that we are still the same people who shoot ourselves in the foot by kunyonga meter. Some of us don't pay on time. Some of us corrupt your meter readers so that they don't do it, or when they disconnect it, we connect it back. I think Joy keeps saying these things of standards, mindset. We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard so that Joy, and when the little that we have or what we are producing continues being sustainable. In as much as even we are talking about how expensive it is, we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. We need to be responsible. We need to not think of just ourselves, because there is Joy. And all of us who actually need this. So I won't get into the nitty-gritty because Joy has gone into it, but I will say as a consumer, having heard what she said, it has now given me a much better insight. So when I'm complaining tomorrow about the electricity, I need to take pause and wonder, who else is leaving the grid because we're not being consistent? Who is stealing from the grid? And if they keep doing it, will they be profitable? And if they are not profitable, then what? These aspirations that we have around energy, will we achieve them? So that's my thought.
Thank you so much, Kiri. Dr. Ojwang, I will have to pause you for a little moment there so that we can engage the audience. This conversation is as much theirs as it is yours as well. Anthony, what are we picking up from the room?
Guys. I just continue talking. Anyway, before we get to the audience, we also have an online audience, which I'll start with. For example, you have Norbert Kerr on Facebook, who say they're supporting this debate, which is good. Then we have Ben Lagat, also on Facebook, saying that the only problem we have is corruption. That's the elephant in the room. So I would like some feedback on those questions. But before I get to the panel, we also have a secondary panel here of young leaders, young students that also are part of this debate. So we can start with you. What do you have to say? Is corruption the elephant in the room today?
Good afternoon, everyone.
You can stand up.
Good afternoon.
I am a student of life, not one currently in school. I am an advocate in practice. Corruption is a serious problem, and I will take it from the law perspective
move at the front a bit.
So, if you look at the way our laws are designed, if I want to purchase something, we have procurement law. For those who have encountered procurement law, if you look at the cases at the tribunal, there are so many, and everybody wants to go there because someone won, another one felt that person should not have won, then the person who won also wants another one in the same competitive process. Then there is the person who is arresting. You are arresting someone who has been accused of stealing 1 billion shillings, and you earn 100,000 or 50,000. Does it make sense? That's what we go through as lawyers. Traffic offenses. How many of you here have been arrested by a traffic officer? The inconvenience itself invites corruption, right? You would rather pay 1,000 shillings or 500,000 shillings to get out of a speeding ticket. I know we don't have ticket in Kenya, but traffic court. Before your charges are read before the magistrate, it's 2 p.m. The court you are going to, the people are so scary because we don't have the infrastructure. People who have been arrested on murder charges, people who look at you. If you are a soft person, I would not recommend for you to go down that route. You know? If you're looking at judges, the judiciary, where we are struggling now as lawyers because judges are competing with lawyers to practice. Yeah? A judge is seated on a bench, but he drafted the same pleadings that have come before him. Okay? I don't think you can solve that problem with law. I am practicing it. It will not work. We will not solve it in our churches. Our religious leaders have also failed. If you transfer that problem to the leadership, it will not work. So maybe we need to discuss the software of the nation.
Interesting comment. The panel, who wants to go first?
Yeah, very fast. I think in Britain they said if you want revolution, kill all the lawyers. Because they were the problem in the society. You find in Kenya, somebody has stolen the billions or allegedly used it in a manner inconsistent with their right to property. Before they're even arrested, they have gone to court for anticipatory bail. They have not even been arrested to be asked where is 10 billion. They have a bail in hand. Yet the Constitution already provides for right to bail. That if you are arrested, you should be produced within what? 24 hours anyway, and you have a right to bail for whatever, for everything because of our history. Yet lawyers have found a creative way of getting anticipatory bail. I'm saying that as a teacher of the law, that our solution is not the law. You know, Kenyans think if we make more laws, even to follow law is a moral choice. It's not a legal choice. You decide to say, because this is illegal and I'm a good person, I'm not going to do it. That is not a legal choice. That is a moral choice. And so heap and heap of laws is not the solution. Singapore had the worst corruption than Kenya. And that's why it's the best case study. Singapore had worse corruption than Kenya. But it reached a point that people were tired of being tired. And just say, we are not going to take business as usual. We are not going to allow this amount of corruption. And therefore, I think we must, and that is why I like that word Singapore. Whether it is used by the loosiest politician, let us hold them accountable and say, Mheshimiwa, with this action, how are we going to get there? But at least we have a definition defined. So the issue of corruption is a big issue in Kenya, and I think we need to tighten our laws. But beyond that, we need morality. We need to be tired of doing this. There's a lot of surveys that have shown that even those who are not corrupt don't consider corruption that bad, yet we know what it has cost. Finally, I think on the issue of power, because I was a board member, very briefly, I look at it also as an issue of justice. By the way, Kenya Power don't make money from those rural consumers, where somebody only have light, no fridge, no whatever. The cost of bringing that person power all the way from Lesos down to Homa Bay, and then he uses token for 100 for 1 month, because he want to light the light between 7 and 9. He's not paying for the cost of getting them the power. So that is why Kenya Power have to overtax the industries. And there is, as a consequence, where the industries, they now hide in the slums. They hide in the slums, they hide in informal settlement, where if you are in the pole there, you are being hit by stone, you cannot disconnect them. And so that culture and that lack of discipline is where Singapore was. Finally, why Singapore? Even in Kenya Power, we realized that, you know what, look at inequality in Kenya. In Nyanza, we produce electricity in Odino, which has to come back to Kegati for it to come back to Sondu. The power in Nyanza is from Lesos here. Moroni is just a substation. The people in Moyale and Northeastern are their office is it still in Nyeri or Kiambu? Because there is no power there, apart from those generators. Because you know the growth of this country has been skewed. If you look at the percentage of rural electrification in some counties, if you do infrastructural audit of Kenya in some counties, they have more tarmac road than the rest of the country. And those inequality, and I had the issue of inequality here, even when it comes to power, other people in their villages have power. Other people, they have not seen power. And therefore, there is a push towards equality. I conclude by saying, look at the statistics. 60% of Kenyans in Nairobi live in slums. How are you going to get to Singapore when 60% live in informal settlement? There are studies showing the negative association that children growing in informal settlement in one room without dignity are getting. They're being molested. I'm not generalizing, but you know there's a lot going on in there. Now, look at the amount, and where did Singapore begin? Housing. But look at the resistance on the issue of housing. Just building a house has become an issue that other people have even gone to the street. Building, and then we talk of right to shelter in the Constitution, we talk of human dignity, we talk of right to sanitation, yet somebody lives somewhere where they cannot be accessed by ambulance and no sanitation. And so the issue we have in Kenya is the peanut dream. We have to think big, and we have to be inspired. And to me, that is the purpose of leadership that Chancellor was talking about. Once we are inspired, let us color the journey to Singapore with our own hands.
You know this thing of bad manners. You know, I see my colleagues when I'm in Beijing, at exactly 11:30, every Chinese is going for lunch, and they are running literally. By 12:15 p.m., they are done and they are going to sleep because they sleep for 1 hour. I'm just imagining if it's Kenyans, and they go eat, by the way, they eat the starch things nearly like ugali. So I'm just looking at Kenyans. They eat at 12:15 and then you allow them to sleep. What time will they wake up? They will wake up tomorrow. But I can assure you, Chinese sleep exactly 45 minutes. That 12:15 at exactly 1, they are back to their desks and they are working. I have been in Chinese now, this is the 3rd year. We don't know even where the keys for the doors are because we have never closed our doors for our house. We came, the whole family here, for 1 month this December. My family has gone back and I've not heard that something is missing in the house. I take days before I see a policeman on the road in China. In China, your car, if you have a car, you are given days to be on the road with your car. You're told your days is Tuesday and Friday. Ojwang is told your days is Wednesday and Thursday. Because Beijing has 20 million people, and that is how they manage traffic. Here we are 3 million and we are chaotic. So the bad manners. And so how have I managed to have the good manners in Beijing, but here I have the bad manners? And I'm the same person. This is a university, cooperative university. Why should a student miss marks? And it wants to compete with Harvard.
I was hoping for a clap.
That is the question we are asking. You're saying cooperative university, Nairobi or KU, wants to become a Harvard or a Tsinghua or a University of Singapore. But small marks, the lecturer is seated there. Danko was a lecturer at African Nazarene before you became when I was in Masinde, I lost my marks. I got them 2 days to graduation. Yes, my marks got lost in first year. I got them 2 days to graduation. Today, when I go to my Twitter, there are just 2 people. When I post something, they hit the cooperative university because they are parents of students who lost their marks and suffered, not anything else. So when I sit with my vice chancellor here in the university, it's just bad manners. So Kenyans from the leadership, us who have been privileged to be up here, we must stop bad manners. Those tears and all that, that is when we will start moving to the next level. But these other things, we want to move, but we are full of bad manners. We cannot. And even citizens, in your house, you are the father, you are the mom. You sit together, you are the mom with your children, you speak to your children, you expect your children, you will have consensus and move. You are a dad, you speak to your children or your nieces or your nephew, have consensus and move. Here, we have appointed a president and a cabinet. They go represent us and they agree with something, but we just quarrel with them from morning and evening and they ask, why were we quarreling? Why were we quarreling? Can we just have some consensus? Or somebody has never met me and just starts to abuse me. The other day I was in the village and I was walking. And somebody says, hata hiyo suti ni pesa yetu. Surely, let me say, chancellor role, you are not paid even a single cent. It's pro bono. Pro bono. Right? So that person is just abusing me for nothing. Kwamba nimekula pesa yao. Na hii ni kamshahara yangu napata huko China. You see? It's a mindset thing. It's a mindset thing. The things that it's assumptions. We have a lot of assumptions. Or somebody abuses you and then when they meet you, they are like, kumbe we ni mtu mzuri tu hivi. Right? So it's mindset. It's our bad manners. So our country, it has come a time where we need to step back, reflect one more time.
Thank you so much, our Chancellor. Now, we've gone on a long tangent. We started with power, corruption, bad manners. Now I don't know where to even go. But we need to take questions from the audience. So what we'll do, I know there are many. I'll come to you guys here at a later time. So that gentleman, so I'll take 2 from this side and 2 from this side, because we are also running out of time. So state your name. Be very brief. Be very brief. Okay? State your name and the person you're addressing the question to.
Thank you. My name is Joshua Okayo. I'll try to be brief, but you didn't give me a chance the other time, so I have questions that span across 2 sessions. Yeah, you said the conversation is for all of us, the audience plus the panelists. And thank you for the contributions. Thank you. I just wanted to also state that dictatorships also have flopped before. And Kenya has also had a dictatorship that never grew. So then it doesn't mean that if Kenya becomes a dictatorship, then we can become a successful dictatorship. We can be, actually, if you say Singapore is a dictatorship, then Kenya is also a dictatorship. That's what I believe. I've had a lot of mentions about vision and vision bearer and the president, trying to grow Kenya to 100 megawatts or something. I want to say that there's this illusion that all political leaders have goodwill and that all statements they make are meant to grow us. Yet sometimes, and we know, political leaders have made political statements that serve political interests rather than public interest. And we've had people promised bottom-up pesa mfukoni. Now pesa has not gone to the mfuko, now we are on Singapore. And now we think this is going to be realized. If pesa mfukoni bottom-up was not realized, or it is not being realized, and no one is working on it to finish that agenda before we pick up on another, why are we thinking that then this Singapore that we talk about, and Dr. Juang is very proudly talking about Singapore because he advises the president, why are we thinking that Singapore is going to be possible? And why, yes. No, that's okay. Finally, to Joy. Joy, I know you don't produce energy, you distribute, but again, you are a stakeholder in the energy sector. You are talking about preferring industrial consumers to, these other consumers, and Dr. Juang gave them a name, living in the rural areas. From my research, we have a potential of producing power from about 19 to 20 potential grounds for geothermal power. And yet we are only currently using, I think, 4 or 5. Where is the challenge? Also, when she asked about, where the money you collect go to, you mentioned everything else, but you didn't tell us where the profit you make go to. Kenya Power made, I think, about, for the financial year ended 2025, you made about 24.5 billion, and the previous year you made about 30 billion Kenya shillings. So I think I would also be interested to know where that goes to, as opposed to the other, because this is net profit, have you made all the payments? Thank you.
18 questions. That was a gentleman. Allow me to take from a lady. And then I'll come to you later. Any lady with a question on this side? Oh my goodness, none. So I guess we'll just have to give the gentleman. Proceed. Before you go, he has taken a lot of your time, so be very brief, please.
I will be brief. I think I had said my name. So just like Daniel in the Bible, that is Daniel chapter 2. I think whenever we really come to such conversations, let us now come to really get the solutions to our challenges that we have at home. Number one, we have the institution, our accountability institution, that today have been politicized much. And even when someone is wrong, he will say, this is a political witch hunt. So sometimes it's very hard to know whether this person indeed has done a wrong thing, he has melted with something like this amount of money, or there is a political witch hunt in that. So I believe in our discussions, we are going to be help on this. How can we really differentiate the two? From there, we are going to curb impunity. Because people are doing things in this government, and we as a whole, I'm not targeting any, but all of us, from an individual point of view to the presidency, we are doing some things that sometimes, from a moral perspective, we have lost something. Secondly, I'm thinking that when we are doing more reformations, let us also look at the county governments because of the devolution. Because we are most of the time we concentrate onto the national government, leaving alone the county government, yet there is a lot that's happened in the county government. We were just talking with I'm sorry, but 1 minute. We were just talking with someone here, and we said that more money is squandered at the county government more than the national government. But because we always blame the someone on the top. Lastly, political goodwill. At an individual point of view, all the political parties in opposition and in government, let us have political goodwill for good development. And those who are in government, let us also not forcefully use some rules or governance systems that hinders other people's development. Because from our research, in 2014, we had public debt of 2.4 trillion. Today, it is 12.05 trillion. That is almost 11 years, if I'm not wrong, or 12 years. Really, are we going somewhere? So let us really think of that.
This side. The gentleman at the back was the first one. Again, I keep on saying, follow instructions. Be very brief.
So good afternoon. Thank you for the chance and thank you for your contribution. I will be very brief.
Thank you.
And in real sense, I believe every generation has their role in this world. And the role of our generation in this discussion is to try and achieve that first world status. And how do I feel we are behind as a generation? In real sense, the conversation around education, you will find that our education system is not properly set up such that right now our politicians, when they are on tops of cars, they tend to quote the Bible more than they tend to quote the Constitution. In real sense, we need people to learn the Constitution. I am a strong believer that when we teach people the Constitution, we will learn a lot of things, and we are suffering as a nation because we lack knowledge on the Constitution. And when we do that, we'll be a step forward to achieving first world status because they will not lie to us, and we'll be able to enact proper leadership, and we'll go far. Thank you.
I need a lady now. So she went first. So again, state your name and be brief.
Hello, my name is Gladys Karanja. I'd like to be brief. I'll be brief. My question is, how will we grow when even our government is not ready to look at the laws the way they're supposed to?
Please be louder.
The way they're supposed to. Because one thing that Kenya has been known for is tourism. Yet, we are people who are destroying the one thing Kenya is known for, wild-beast migration, to a point that people are building hotels in the route of the animals. So how are we supposed to grow when we can't hatuwezi eka vitu zetu vizuri?
So final question, again we'll take it from a lady. I think ladies have not spoken. You'll get to you. I think this lady also had a question, so you can proceed.
A warm and graceful afternoon to everyone. My name is Mulinge Alice, President, African Nazarene University. Dr. Ojong was my dean in 2022. Now my question is, it seems like we are building Singapore by procuring a lot of debts. And we all understand that debt servicing takes a lot of income to pay back the debts. And this is starving the education sector, the health sector, rural infrastructure, and all that. So my question is, maybe to Dr. Ojang, how do we finance development without debt dependency? Then the other question, I want to believe that first world status is not achieved by GDP alone. We also understand that things like upholding the rule of law, separation of powers, low corruptions are very critical in ensuring that we achieve that first world status. So how do we redefine the governance structures to ensure that they propel us to that stage? Thank you.
So our able panelists, in no particular order, can answer the questions.
More direct. The power ones. Where do the profits go when we declare all these massive profits? First and foremost, the thing with these profits you need to understand is the government is our biggest shareholder. And so when you declare a profit, you pay them first before you pay anybody else. So our profits go to our shareholders. So by law, we have to split any income that we make, we have to split with our shareholders. Profits go to reinvesting in the business. Our grid is old, like I told you. It's over, this year we did 104 years of Kenya Power. There are some lines in this Nairobi that are 104 years old. They need updating, they need replacing. When I was talking about replacing failing transformers and other things, that comes straight out of our pocket. So any money that we are making is getting back in the business. So actually it's those things where you tell yourself, yeah, I made 30 billion, but if you come to look for 30 billion sitting in the account, aguna, because it keeps going back into the business. So if I was going to charge for power in a manner that created a profit that would be, you can tell Kenya Power imeomoka, would probably charge a lot more. But that's why EPRA exists. Because even what I charge for power is determined by the regulator. And they check to make sure that what they've said is the tariff remains the tariff. So there's the consumers that Dr. Ojwang was talking about. We call them lifeline consumers. Those lifeline guys consume 30 units or less a month. A guy can put a token for 200 bob and stay with it for 2 months. What it costs me to get power to him costs more than I'm making from him. So that element of cross-subsidization exists because now when you consume up to 100 units, you pay a little bit more for your power. And so you find, for example, if the way guys would sometimes complain, I used to pay 500, now I find I'm paying 1,000. It's because if you cross the 30 unit threshold, your tariff goes up. If you cross the 100 unit threshold, like these guys of Karen who leave the lights on all the time, they have a higher tariff. So it goes graduating. So by the time I get into industries, they pay a whole lot more. Like up to 13 cents, I think they pay per unit. Now, it's not a preference of industries. It's because they can afford to pay me, because for them, power is a cost of production, and that cost of production can be passed to the consumer. They can make it back. It's a business. So even if I charge them premium for their power, they can pay me because they're making money. And if they pay me, I'm afloat to be able to pay for that guy who's getting the power to him is costing me more than I'm making from him. That's why I'm saying we need industrial guys to remain part of the grid. But if in the industrial area, we've put Mukuru here, there's another Soweto there, there is what there. So any power going to Inda is being sabotaged constantly. They get to a place where they can't rely on me for power, so they move. When they move, they don't pay me. When they don't pay me, I can't afford to keep the line open for you. So that's what I'm saying, it's a symbiotic relationship. If we take care of our big ballers and they pay decent enough, then you're able to cross-subsidize. Now, what went wrong? There's somebody who asked a question like that. Now, this is a bit of politics and history and all of it, and I'll try and keep it brief because, yeah, it's ridiculous. Somewhere in 2018, we started doing politics with power. So somebody would wake up and say, you know what, from tomorrow, everybody is going to get connected power for 15,000 bob. It costs a whole lot more than 15,000 bob to connect people to power. But when guys hear that, what do? Yeah, they go, they start connecting. That's why we went from 3 million customers to 8 million in like a few years. Now, when that happens, it's very good for mwananchi. We are happy. Hata mi ushago tuligongelea mita kwa mti tukaifunika na nini juu steam na rudi when we took advantage of it. But for the business side, it took a hit. So what happened? Kenya Power was cash strapped. So what happened? It couldn't pay its producers. So what happened? They started defaulting. Before long, all of us are being hit with penalties because we borrowed money to develop the... So before long, all those things coming back to us, the tariff had to be adjusted because the market had to autocorrect. So even now, we are still repaying some of the bad manners we did when power was subsidized to a level that was not sustainable to keep the industry going. So that's kind of the science behind it. Now, when it comes to geothermal, for you to sink one geothermal well, you're looking at about $5 million. Some even go up to 10 million. When you look at what it brings into the grid, maybe if you get a really good well, it will give you 10 megawatts. You said you've seen 19 sites. Let's say those 19 sites, we get super steam. You know, like ile steam ya Kishua. It would give me combined total, best case scenario, 200 megawatts. Now, so I have 200 megawatts coming into the grid. The thing with steam, you have to realize, because we produce from many sources, we sort of have a merit order. So during the day, the guys who produce from solar are the guys who take their power first. So if the guy has steam, but I need to take from solar, I'll not use his power first. I'll use these guys. So what happens? I have all these wells, but they have to vent steam because I still can't take from them. Once the solar guys go down, then I can go take the guy from steam. By that time, if you look at how long it takes to even pay itself back, sometimes it becomes unsustainable. The other complication that in Kenya, we develop geothermal power in two parts. There's GDC, the Geothermal Development Agency, that now looks for those sites geologically where we can sink the wells. They need a budget of like about, I don't know, like 100 billion, I think, last I checked. But on the other side, you've got KenGen, who actually produce the power, which also costs us. Some wells are like 5 cents, 7 cents, but they also cost us money. So at the end of the day, geothermal is renewable. Like I said, it's renewable, but renewable, the technology is not cheap. So we may have it in abundance. We may be in a place where we are able to take advantage of it because not many people have geothermal, but it's not a walk in the park. So that's what I would say. But just to finish off, there's somebody who asked about this issue about the bad manners. And we need to read the Constitution more than we need to read the Bible. I had a discussion with one of our investors. By the way, he's investing in power. And he said he finds in Kenya, we are a Christian nation, yet them, even their king is the head of the church. They ought to be more Christian than us. But he said he finds that people who are agnostic in Europe are more Christian than the Christians in Kenya who speak in tongues. Our lifestyle does not translate with our faith. So me, I'm born again, I love Jesus, I speak in tongues, but I give bribes. It doesn't translate. That guy never goes to church, but he doesn't steal, he doesn't kill, he does his work right, he's got a good work ethic. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the bad manners. I think for us as a country, tunaweza somea katiba tumalize, because katiba iko online. Si lazima usomeshwe na mtu, kitaka kusoma unaweza jisomea. Lakini Wakenya wameamua tu rules are for other people. When it comes to them, usiwaulize, they're just managing. We have to decide, even us, we will be bound by the same rules we expect other people to be bound by. Wacha niachie hapo for now.
Thank you. I think you have killed the animal, but just to add briefly, the Chancellor will answer the issue of how to finance, because this is actually his area, and you have heard he has found a financer to fund the electricity generation for this university. So I think he will be the expert. But you know, President Ruto is not asking your hand in marriage, so you don't need to like it. I think sometimes we have a criteria that don't help us so much. The issue of I like this guy or I don't like this guy, let's keep it to our partners, if we have one. Because you find a lot of issues of heart around the leaders, and that's how they manipulate us. I work for the president. I'm his advisor. There is no issue of heart. I don't care whether he has a good heart or not. You look at the policy, the paper comes, you do your work, you go to your house where your heart is accessed. He gets to his house where his heart is accessed. So the issue of like and dislike to me are neither here or there. But look at, you know, a real leader, don't just look at things as they are, but things as they ought to be. To me, the boldness, the audacity of saying, you know what, everyone can have universal health care. This is a third world country. I've lived in the US for 14 years. They go to India for treatment. They go to Mexico. They share their medicine with each other. The old men share dentures. You know, those are stories you don't hear about US. And it's a first world country. Insurance is unattainable. So the audacity for a president in a third world country to say, you know what, we are going to attempt universal health care. And you can see the millions that have registered. You can see the audacity of a president in a third world country with the resources, yes, but you know that most of the time we go to those countries to beg, to say, I want to deal with the issue of slums. That boldness, leave the heart, whether you like the heart or not. The boldness, because to me, that is the leadership. Now, my students, should we borrow? I am in charge of justice. Go to the presidential service delivery during Kibaki time. We borrowed. That development went to some places, not to the rest of the Kenya. Look, go to the presidential service delivery during Uhuru's time. We borrowed. That development went to some places, not everywhere. Then when it comes to a time where my village is going to be developed, you are saying, let's stop the borrowing now. Let us pay. No, let us borrow. We will all pay together because some people have been developed and some have not been developed. That's the reality. Go to Saifi and Kaifi in Kenya Power and see the amount of electricity in some counties compared to others. And then when it comes now, where Northeastern are now getting something, where other places are getting something, then the chorus is, let's stop borrowing and pay first. Borrow, we all develop, we will pay together. That is my point. Secondly, and I'm giving you sound bites because that's quotable, isn't it? I know you are looking for sound bites. So in my mind, the question that should occupy our time and concern our effort, Professor Okoth Ogendo wrote something about constitution without constitutionalism. The constitution is not that paper you call constitution. That is why we saw handshake during Uhuru and Ruto, and as constitutional scholars, we are saying, where is that in the constitution? Then we see ministers reporting to Raila's office, former prime minister, briefing him on government projects. Then you realize in Africa there is two constitutions, the formal constitution and the informal constitution. Some of the leaders, because of charisma, are a constitution by themselves. Enigma is a resting constitution. Because if he decides you are not going to move anywhere, you can't. And therefore, the reality of putting too much trust on that one paper, yet you don't look at the people's culture. It's called autogenous constitution, constitution from the cold, without the culture. Constitution is about the people. Therefore, Okoth Ogendo says, constitution without constitutionalism. We live in, have you seen how vehicles drive from Rongai? Is that Kasongo driving the vehicle? Have you seen how we behave? Have you seen the signs usikojoe up and it's always wet? Is that the government? Constitution without constitutionalism. You go to Britain and they'll tell you that's not the British way. And it starts from the youngest child saying, no, that's not our way. And they are proud of the we say Britain don't have a written constitution. It's in the heart, it's in the character, it's in the manner. So we say, if you go somewhere and you hear so much, like you hear in Kenya, rule of law, that's an indicator that there is very little rule of law. You know, when you go somewhere and you hear so much talk of constitution, LSK right now is in court for the first time complaining because there was an order against private practitioners getting working with the hired by public institutions. And we know it has been, there are some who have done a very good job, but unfortunately it has also been a conduit of corruption. Look at the pending bills of Nairobi County legal fee, billions from where? Yet, when the president go negotiate, find that give us all the research and the facility to fund our healthcare, somebody has gone to court that they are right to privacy. So the way we use the constitution is not the right way. And that's why I started by saying you have right to movement, but can you move without money? And therefore, at the end of the day, we concentrate on the economic. If there is economic justice, you can choose whether to eat pizza, whether not to eat. But if there is no money, I can cite for you the right to food all the time, Article 34. But so who owes you that right? Should the president cook food and bring it to you? Can this government feed you? Because there is no money, we are a third world country. We must create wealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll be brief because of time. We have made mistakes. From 1963, we have made mistakes. It's not undeniable. Today, we have also made mistakes as the leaders and the citizens. But let me be a devil's advocate. Just looking at the geopolitics of the moment, let's assume we are so bad, we are so broken, we are so terrible as a country, the way we depict ourselves. The United States President and his government just issued sanctions across 75 countries. Visa, right? Why is it that Kenya is not there? Asking on the basis that we are too bad, we are too terrible. Why is it that we are not there? Stop there. In a span of a year, there is only one head of state in the whole world who has had a state visit in the US and in China. So let's assume he's so bad, he's so terrible. What is it that these people have seen in us that we are not seeing? That is your take home. And that should start telling us this country is not just big. This country is very influential. And what we do with it this year, next year, we have borrowed 12 trillion. And I have worked at the Africa Development Bank. I now work for the second largest multilateral development bank in the world. And so we have borrowed. And we predicted countries that are going to default. And we were all afraid about Kenya. We were there, we sat, we people who sit in those halls. Why is it that Kenya didn't default? Assuming that we are too bad, we are too terrible, we are too chaotic. We don't know where we are going. So, in terms of borrowing, our headroom is very limited. And every country in the world, I can tell you, I just did a facility for Singapore. I've done a facility for China. I've done a facility for Brazil. Every country borrows, but it's how they borrow. When I go to Saudi, I'll get something called National Development Fund. A facility that then starts to help the country to get money off balance sheet to develop nations. So that a project, somebody can come with money, develop a new terminal, run that terminal without burdening Minister Mbadi and PS Kipto for 10, 15 years. That is where we need to move. So when the head of state says, can we have an alternative balance sheet called National Infrastructure Fund? He's just simply saying, we cannot continue to borrow straight on as sovereign through treasury because we have hit the bottom. So we need an alternative balance sheet so that, because what Joy is talking about, Prof and Kirui here, those huge things Thwake Dam requires 34 billion. But we need somebody who can come, develop a Thwake Dam, another Thwake Dam, sell that money to us and receive the receivables for 20 years and then transfers to the government of Kenya. Those alternative balance sheet, what we call a vertical fund, is what the country requires. That is what we are proposing. Yes, we have bad manners. Yes, we have made mistakes. But even if you have been a drunkard for long, there comes a day you say, naacha, imetosha. So Kenya can start, we can start afresh. President Ruto has not said he has not done a mistake. He may have done a mistake, but he's saying we can pivot and we can go. Singapore's story is simply on 2030. We need to get there on that upper middle income. So it is not a different story. Bottom up, it's still Vision 2030. What we wrote in Azimio was still Vision 2030. We just want to have better education, better health care, socio-political issues organized in a way. So, can we pause for a moment and love ourselves one more time?
Oh wow, debaters, I think we could go on and on about this power issue, but I think it's because it resonates with the majority of us. That Mama Mboga in Dr. Ojwang's village, in my village even, it affects us at such personal levels. But I am glad the audience has brought this up because I was coming to that borrowing issue. But Dr. Ojwang, you have the idea of the school of thought that let's continue borrowing. Everybody must develop their, their homes, their home counties. Let's shift gears now to the skilled and innovative workforce. Education is the largest, Dr. Chitunga, coming to you. Education is the largest budget holder at 28.1% of the national spend, and because you're the chancellor of a university. University funding fell by 50% in 2024, and that has threatened the quality of education. Young people are now complaining that, yes, we've graduated, but there are no jobs. Can Kenya become first world when so many young people are educated but unemployed?
I love the last statement. So many young people are educated. In fact, one of our brothers there nearly questioned our education system. Kenyan education system is the best in the world, and I'll not use any other example. I manage one of the largest infrastructure facilities in the world. But I'm Kenyan, right? And in China. So if we think Chinese are more brilliant than us, and we have millions of our brothers and sisters here, within and without, doing so, our education system is one of the best in the world. Number two, Kenya is at a pivotal and advantageous place, just like Singapore, because many Kenyans have gone to school, many Kenyans are brilliant, our literacy levels are very high. Number three, the funding model. When I ask VC, he is very happy. Because today, unlike previously, he has his money. This is where the funding model is not working. And I know that the ministry is working on it. It's about the classification of students. Because the matrices are still, like you are supposed to be on this bandwidth, and the matrices are still, then you find yourself here, and therefore you find yourself with slightly a higher amount to be paid. And because also we are challenged with the money that goes to treasury, that inflow of financing. So those two issues, once we get them right, where we place our students, so that when you are poor, you find yourself in that band, so that you receive the amount. And then when treasury can have their money, because lots of money, the truth is still going to debt, because debt is the first charge. And therefore, students arrive in school and they have not received that money and they are not happy and all that. But in terms of the money coming to the university, our universities they were collapsed. They were collapsed. But today, I can tell you, from where I sit as chancellor and the vice chancellors, because of that funding model, we are getting life again. Therefore, we are on the right path. It's not moving as fast as it should be. I think we can do better. There is always room for improvement. And yes, as citizens, you need to keep making noise. Students need to keep making noise. And we ourselves, advisors to the president, need to push that so that then we can make our systems really work, so that health, education, and all those things, once they work, everybody will be happy.
Thank you, Dr. Chitunga. Kirui, to you. I know Dr. Chitunga says that we are getting things right, but that may not be the perspective of so many of these jobless young Kenyans. Is the problem the quality of our education? That we are providing at institutions of higher learning, or the economy's failure to absorb these skills?
For me, let me speak first as a parent and go to the fundamental and the basic level. if you have a child who's doing CBC, in and of itself, it's not a bad system, in and of itself, in principle. Because what it's trying to do is it's trying to impart skills at an earlier level, and we stop moving away from competing against each other towards collaborating and actually acquiring skills. So from that fundamental level, we have understood that there is need to impart skills at a much more fundamental level. How it was implemented is another story. It's another story. There is a lot of confusion. If you are a parent with a grade 10, problems. And then we get to the university, which fundamentally, and Prof, Chancellor, you'll forgive me, because sometimes I struggle with this. Because sometimes it seems more theoretical than actually practical. It does. And here I'm speaking, I'm not holding brief for anyone. That's the feeling that I get. Because if you hear, I was conducting interviews today in the morning, and some people are graduates and they cannot express themselves. Their ideas, they can't articulate those ideas. And they're graduates. And we do have a brilliant system, and we have people who are extremely capable. But then are some people being left behind by this system? Is there somewhere where we are, the tide is rising, yes, but are all boats floating? If the tide has risen and we have this good system, are all boats floating? And then the other thing that sometimes is a disconnect is we feel entitled that if I have a degree, I have to get a job. I have to, it's by my right. Is it really a right? Are we guaranteed anything in life? Can we do something else? If we are given the power, when I graduated, I was told I was given the power to read and to do all that appertains to this degree. Is the job the only thing that appertains to this degree? Is it relevant in the market? Because if we all pigeonhole ourselves and think that a job is what I am supposed to do if I have a degree in procurement, for instance, then are there enough jobs for all of us? So that's mindset. Once again, mindset. If you go into university thinking that at the end of it, I am guaranteed a job, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, whatever degree, then I think you've missed the whole point of education. Yes. So are we building capacity? Yes, we are. Guaranteed 100%. And we have brilliant people. If you pass through education system and get the grades that you deserve, yes. But is a job the only way? Are we exchanging our certificate for money? That's the question that I'm asking.
Joy?
I want to just segue on that conversation. Because I think, because for the longest time we've had that promise of soma ukimaliza utapata kazi nzuri sana, and people have gotten into a place where, like you say, you graduate and you expect a job. But nobody ever became wealthy because they were employed. So why do we sell the job as the ultimate zenith of whatever we are aspiring to as learned people? I've traveled a little bit, and I'll tell you something. There's a guy who will come to do plumbing in your house in London who's making more than the accountant that you are. Why? Because he can work with his hands. During COVID, when the world was shut down, most of us who are lawyers, the courts were shut down, we couldn't go to court, but we needed food. People were by the side of the road selling us tomatoes. We went to buy tomatoes despite the virus existing. Why is it we do stories on TV of a graduate vuta mkokoteni as if it's a shame, and yet he's getting money in his pocket to feed his family, and there's somebody else who's tamarking while he's playing video games in his father's house for 6 years, who's thinking outside the box? We need to come to a place to help our young people understand what you have in your head, what you have in your hands, what you have in your legs is your rasilimali. Make it work for you. Money, aiandikwangu kule metoka, the guy who's selling for a charcoal, as long as he has got money in the bank, he'll come and buy any services he needs, including mine as a lawyer. Let me close with a small story. I used to be a magistrate once upon a time. Somebody came to my courtroom. He had a video in Chuda somewhere. You know those videos where the kids pay 20 bob to watch Arsenal playing Aston Villa? Those ones. That was what the guy used to do, plus other biasharas. And these guys had come and they had stolen, I think, his ATM card or something, and they had stolen from him. So he produced, as part of his evidence, his bank book. I was looking at that book of this guy who can barely put two sentences together. Clearly hajasoma. If there was a job in government, he would not even be shortlisted. But when I was looking at the money he was moving from that video, me, the magistrate, was sitting there, and I'm thinking, that time I didn't even have a car. I used to take a matatu to work. I couldn't even afford to buy a car. You know, you're looking at this guy and you're like, what am I doing with my life? With my entire degree, that time I think my pay slip was like 57,000 gross. This guy, people have stolen 100,000 from him. And when I look at his bank book, he's got millions. From video, I started evaluating.
Yeah.
What are we doing with education? Are we educating people to a level where they are trapped in the rat race? Because yesterday I was in a meeting and you are hearing people introducing themselves and say, I used to be a journalist, but now I'm a farmer. Why? There's money in the soil.
Yeah.
Do we tell people that there's money in the soil? So young people understand nobody ever hires you and makes you rich. They hire you and keep you comfortable, feed you enough, and keep you healthy enough to keep making them money. Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
We have to get to a place where we start making our own money. Because I'll tell you something, study some communities, like the Indians or the Somali community. Family businesses is everything. Here your father is doing anauza makaa, you think because umesoma wezi uza makaa. But your makaa, your mamako akifanya catering, sufuria ndo zimekusomesha. Mimi ni mtoto wa pasta, sadaka ndo zilinisomesha. But with the raw where we've come from, thinking that because tumesoma, we are better than. Pesa iandikwagi kule imetoka. And once you have money, if you are a lawyer, you can go and become an even bigger lawyer. But once you've got money, then you don't even have to be a lawyer if you don't want to. Let's give ourselves options and open our minds to what else we can do with the education that we are receiving. That all else that appertains.
Dr. Ojwang, as you respond to that, also perhaps tell us, are we training students or graduates for jobs that no longer exist? And I ask this because Kenya ranks number 64 in creativity outputs, that is ICT services and patents. But we are number 124 in input, research and development funding.
There's even data that we were leading in the use of internet.
Yes.
Online Kenya, more than even the third world countries. So there is something there that we have a very good human resource. Whether we are training for the right thing, you know. I was Googling for a name here. There's a sing-out-song, teacher, don't teach me nonsense. Yes, well, teacher, don't teach me nonsense, by Fela Kuti. You know, somebody come to you, read notes that have not passed through their head, neither do they pass through your head. You know this teacher, I've just Googled this thing. Then you go do the exam, then we think you are going to use this to solve the world or to solve problems. Because really, what is education? What have you done for the society? If you look at the US, their second export is education. How many people go and spend money in the US? And that's how US earn a lot of money from education. How many Kenyans go to South Africa? Yet we have universities saying capitation, tuongezee pesa, nini mbaya. Look at the US university. The second earner of foreign exchange for US and dollars is education. Because education should not be something that drain the pocket of the government and all we need is nipe. How many of these universities have a product in the shelf in a supermarket? I talked to the chair of JKUAT. Soon they will have one. I know Chancellor is pushing one. But can you think about it? We have more than 30-something university. You go to Carrefour, go to any supermarket. Have you met a product produced by thinking from any of these universities? And therefore, there lies the problem. So in summary, the US adopted what they call not survival for the fittest, but making you fit to survive. If you have, and Joy Chair have said how much lazima tujitume. You are there in your parents' basement with your boxers eating Cheetos, sending hashtag, this country is corrupt and a sham. You are there. I mean, what is your contribution? There's enough finger and to go around, and there's enough blame to go around. What are you doing? You are there researching for somebody doing a paper in India. Isn't that what most of our students do? Of course, to earn income. But then we look at the morality of the whole education setup. You bring a paper, somebody has put AI, has brought it as the assignment. We must hold our corner, even in the education. But in a good note, Kenya product of education, whenever they go, when we left here and you get to the US, you start seeing the A's that you could not see in our system. And you wonder, wow, it's possible. You know, I still remember placement test that I did because I was so scared of math placement. And I passed. And then I met a Chinese student who told me, you answered all the questions. I said, yeah, because if you don't know the answer, you guess. He told me, isn't that corruption? So this Chinese, where you don't know the answer, unaacha. Me, I was told, kama ujui answer inaweza kuwa ni B ama C. So I've done my Kenyan thing, and I'm here with my B in maths, in placement exam. We have good input. That is why most of the international firms are getting their headquarters in Nairobi for Africa. That is why the UN, Kenya is going to have one-stop shop like New York, where all the UN offices and agencies are coming to Nairobi. It's because we have a population that is learned, that can do things, and that are very active. We must differentiate between employment and work. Yes, we need employment, but work is broader than employment. So if you say, I have a right to employment, you know, in the rights, you must say, who owes you a duty? I have a right to employment, so who has the duty to employ you? Maybe sometimes we confuse the language of right. I want this, become I have a right to this. Maybe what you are saying is I really need a job, but you are putting into the language of right. I think the job of government is to grow the economy, the private sector, and that is the 2030 vision, and that is what Singapore did, so that people can have choices. You go to the US university, somebody is in the third year, major undecided, because there is so much choices. They can go this way or this way, because life is about choices. Poverty, there is no dignity in poverty. It's about choices. So you can choose to go to university, not that you didn't go because there is no money or help, but you can choose to do high school because you have choices. And that is what Singapore look like.
The people following. Today, if you take your phone and you are a teacher and say, teaching jobs in Papua New Guinea. Do you know who knows where Papua New Guinea is in the world? Where Lao PDR is? Where Uzbekistan is? Where Kazakhstan is? Azerbaijan? What I'm saying is, most of the countries in the East and Asia, the aging populations are, people are aged. So, please, our young people, President nilisikia akisema juzi ati kujituma. Look for jobs in those places. Don't just wake up, ulisoma Masinde kama mimi, you are coming to Nairobi. Try. You are an accountant. Try. For specialized courses like law, maybe they will need something extra. But all these social sciences, try. Then get some language. Enter YouTube, learn some Chinese or some French or some Germany or some Russia. I'm telling you, I lived in Cote d'Ivoire. And when I went to the American school in Abidjan where my children were, most of the teachers were Kenyans. Today, for a teacher, just Google teaching jobs in Togo. You will be able. We limit ourselves. You are looking for a job in Mombasa, in Eldoret, in wherever, and you are looking for a job in government, for sure. This man has, I don't know how many years to retire. For you to get his job, you have to wait. Government is full. Since I was appointed, everybody asks me for a job in government. Mimi mwenyewe sina job in government. Let's go look for jobs. You know, we think going to Qatar or Saudi, tunaenda kufanya domestic. No. There are so many jobs there. Let's try and go, and we will be able to take care of our country and our families back here.
Daktari, if I may take your mic. So the production team is telling me that we have, we have run out of time. So I think we'll try and move it a bit faster. So I know you're a young person, and so many things have been said about young people. So I know you're raring to go. So I'll give you a chance. Then I will take 2 questions from the audience. That lady. There's a gentleman there who has been lifting his hand with a child, so I'll give you the mic. So those are the 2 people that I'll give the mic, then I'll come back to Betty to close it. We're already almost 3 hours in, so we have to close it now. So start with your name, and then maybe perhaps your feedback for the panelists.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Cynthia Soy. I recently graduated at the University of Nairobi, journalism and mass communication, and I'm currently working as an editor and video producer at Opera News Kenya. And I have so many things burning in me because I feel like you haven't mentioned so much about the youth. But let's first go to the question of the day. Is it too ambitious for Kenya to be a first world? And I want to say no, it's not. It's ambitious, yes, but it's not unrealistic. And when you ask me what a first world looks like, I think high income, I think low poverty, I think high human development, I think about strong institutions. I appreciate that you've talked about government and how it's there's successful dictatorship in Singapore. I think what you should say there is they are governable. Kenyans are not governable. Kenyans are lazy. Kenyans, they're and Kenyans are very individualistic. They think about themselves. They don't think about the country at large. And I think one thing about us as a country, we should first unite as people. We should first listen to each other, listen to us as the youth. Because I feel like one thing about Kenya, and like Singapore 40 or 60 years ago, one thing about Kenya, we have human capital. There are so many young, educated, tech-savvy population. There are so many youths, actually millions of youths who are unemployed. And I'm not talking about a tip. Okay, there are so many youths who just sit back at home. You know, like, mamangu atanipea. Yes, atanipea everything that I get from my mom. So I'm telling you, one thing that I feel like as a country we should work towards is increasing the employment opportunities. Industrialization. In Nakuru, let me tell you guys, and it's one of the biggest cities in Kenya, there are no like what's it called? There are not even cinemas. There are not like the malls are countable. Like I feel like if we create all these buildings, like Dubai, they have so many malls, so many of these things. And Kenya, if we decide to create and use this money to industrialize and bring up job and build and create job opportunities, all these millions unemployed sitting at home people will start working. Let me tell you, first world countries like the US, people start working at the young age of 16 years old. A lot of people, like it's so hard to find young people who do not have jobs. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to speak faster because I have so many points, but I also want you guys to also focus. Have too many, you also have to focus on these content creators. Let me tell you, in states, content creators are even the most, like they are millionaires. Let me tell you. In Kenya, if we if we use these content creators for, like, let me use something that I'm used to, makeup. There are so many makeup new startup businesses, Kina Jona, Kinu. There are like so many makeup places that we as students, and not as students, as the youth, we can use these content creators to boost these businesses. Because we are using Maybelline, we are using all these Fenty, Sijuni, and there are Kenyan products in Kenya that we can use to export. Anyways, thank you so much.
Very passionate, that one. So the lady, let's keep it brief.
Thank you so much. My name is Margaret Maina, and thank you, panelists, for sharing your insights with us. I think my question goes hand in hand with energy. And you say that energy powers hospitals, factories, schools, all those. So why don't we treat it as a national foundation instead of a sector? If energy powers factories or even hospitals, you know, why don't we treat it as a national foundation instead of a sector? All right? Number two, in conjunction with what Betty had asked about young people and the skills, how are you preparing young people to build, maintain, and innovate energy system? And the last one, so as you're preparing for energy systems, do you prepare it as election cycle or for the next generation? Thank you.
Very interesting take. The gentleman with the child, it's your chance to speak.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Cecil Omondi. Thank you for giving me this time. So my questions were going to you guys. Already we are going to first world countries, and most of the people whom I've seen are concentrated so much in this Singapore thing are the elderly people. As Gen Zs, we are seeing it as a scam, as a online platform. We are seeing it as a meme. So how are you preparing us in your future? You want us to be you want us to be part of the Singapore project as the little generation. You have places, you have you're a chairman, you find someone is a lecturer, advocate somewhere. As the younger generation who are coming up, how are we going to fit in this generation? How are you preparing us to fit in and to adopt and to be part of you and to maintain what you will have made in those years? I've heard it is 2055. So in 2055 I'll be old, and I really want to be part of that project in 2055. So guide us kindly.
Thank you very much. I'll also read two comments from our online audience. And the first one is from Shani on X. He said that we are busy hugging trees instead of planting them. So if someone would like to take that. Then there's another gentleman on Facebook called Kennedy Jesseri, and he said this information really needs to get to the policymakers. I don't know if you can categorize you guys as policymakers. Because in here, we have the solutions to most of our issues, but we don't have anyone to tell. So perhaps that can also be responded. I've also been told by the production team that all of you only have 1 minute to answer. So Daktari, please, keep it brief. And you can go first.
So, colleagues, it's a journey. We can start by consolidating our national values and ethos as individuals, as citizens, as families, and as a people. Number two, we can consolidate the gains on our governance. We have had bad manners across our governance system, which informs the corruption, which informs other misdemeanors. We need to consolidate that. Number three, we need to be bold. Bold, courageous, to go into a journey across all our sectors, and the sectors we are talking about are strategic sectors, sectors that will enable our economy to start growing at 9%, not at 4%. When it grows at 9%, then we can unleash the jobs. Finally, we have a good country. We have a good country. A few of us have messed it. But the many of us who desire our country to be bigger, like our brother there who's saying who wants to be part of this program, we can rise up. Young people, take your vote and speak next year. Those who are closer to the leaders, don't shy away in putting your words. For students who are here, when you see issues at the university are not going well, don't destroy the university, but use your voice with clarity and boldness. So that with all of us together, the same way China did, the same way Singapore did, we can go into other journey, and 2030, 2035, in our lifetime, we can be where we want to go. Thank you very much.
Well, let me start quickly by answering your questions. There is an African country that I shall not name because we are being broadcast that got into a space where they started putting up affordable housing, their people moved in, and power is being provided as a social amenity. Needless to say, within a decade, the entire energy sector had collapsed. And now they were in an energy crisis. What happened after the crisis is that now the power producers started producing power for the customers who could pay. And so those who are used to having free power had none and used to have extended periods of outages. But if you had money, somebody could build a transmission line and give your estate power because you guys there are able to pay. It is a balance. The energy sector is a balance. Those who have got more pay more and help those who have got less to enjoy the same facility because it has been shown that it is one of the factors of growth. Ideal situation would be for the energy sector to move into the mercantile economy where we can trade in. So I can come set up a plant and then, you know, sell it on the market. But we are not yet there. But that's where we are growing to. But for Kenyan consumers, the everyday consumers, we need to understand it is a symbiotic relationship. If we sabotage our power sector, if we think we are entitled to free power and we don't want to pay anything for it, eventually it will not even be available for us to use. So it is the balance of reinvesting. Like I told you in 2018, when people dropped the prices too low to be sustainable, we almost went into having no power to talk about. So that's why I think we can make it a foundation. However, what are we doing with young people in the sector? Kenya Power, for example, we have an innovation conference every year. People are coming to showcase things that they can do. Guys from JQAT, from other universities that are doing engineering. And every year we have guys who are showing us how better to charge electric vehicles, electric cooking, and other things. So when such opportunities exist, I know BYD have got something coming up. It's an opportunity to showcase. Every year, KenGen also has one. So if you are in the energy sector as a student, there are opportunities in Kenya to showcase what you're doing, and all of us are trying to look for talent. Because in this sector, innovation is a big deal. And unlike popular belief, we don't have enough engineers. We don't have enough innovation in this sector. So the room for us to grow is a lot, because right now we are importing most of our technology. And finally, how do we do our electric planning cycle? Is it per election? No. There is a master plan that is domiciled in the Ministry of Energy. And this master plan now tries to help us know where are we going to develop power. Is Ketraco building the lines to evacuate that power? Does Kenya Power have the capacity to distribute that power? So there's a grand master plan that is housed at the Ministry of Energy that if we stick to, works. When we allow politics to come in between, it does not work. So this government, when they were coming in, one of the things they purposed to do was to allow Kenya Power to operate commercially. And that's why the tariff was bumped up almost overnight and the cost of power went up and everything. But what that did, it gave us a lifeline as an industry to operate competitively. So if we keep the politics out of energy, it should stabilize. And right now, I think we are going into tariff review next year. EPRA will be going around in every single country looking for views from Kenyans about energy. Attend those sessions. Make your voice heard. Let also you learn a little bit about what we are doing. Kenya Power, we've started doing a lot of adverts and PSAs online for people to learn what it takes to do the business of power, because also there's a lot of ignorance on what we are doing as Kenya Power. So you're welcome to write a letter, drop in a request. We love partnering with schools. Our foundation sponsors students in engineering, especially girls, because We don't have enough girls in the sector. That's why I insist on calling myself chairman, because there's so many men in that sector that you and me, I'm a man. But we need more diversity, and so I would encourage you to step up. And because nimeona ako ka sign, let me end with this small quick story for all of us as Kenyans. There's this man who prayed for a wife, and he said, I want a wife who's tall but not too tall. I want a light skin but not too light. She should be plump but not too plump. But the one thing that is non-negotiable, she should be able to cook. And God brought her this damsel who ticked every box except which one? She could not cook to save her life. And he looked and he said, you just get away from me. And yeah, I don't want to see you again. At the same time, there was a guy who was also praying for a wife. And his specs were almost the same. And God takes the same girl and takes it to this guy. So he looked, he was like, kila kitu, figa ya chupa, tick, 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 tick. But when he tried the food, it was poison. The next thing he did is he used his little resources, paid for her kidogo catering. She not only learned how to cook, she learned how to serve and garnish, na kadhalika. He got himself a wife. Both prayers were answered, but one needed a little bit of effort to get it where it needs to be. God gives you a tree, he then give you a chair. God gives you soil, he then give you food. What we need to do as Kenyans, we need to get to a place where we stop serikali. Let's start taking trees and making furniture for ourselves, because we have what it takes. We're talking about Singapore. As far as I'm concerned, Singapore doesn't exist. Kenya is a first world country. We just need to tear off our suit like Superman and manifest our superpower. That's my parting shot.
Yeah, should we talk of Singapore? Can we talk of Singapore? My conclusion is yes, we should continue talking of Singapore. And we should talk of Singapore. Those who survived even during Holocaust were those who had something important to do in the future. We must keep hope alive. We must require and have something important to do in the future. And we cannot accept business as usual. Do we have a lot of challenges? Yes. But that averageness and that status quo is what we must wake out of, kick out, and that is the reason we must keep talking of Singapore. Kenya, in my view, and this is the last word, somebody described it as a zebra. A zebra as the white spot and as the black spot. If you spear the black spot, the same zebra will hurt. If you spear the white spot, the same zebra will hurt. Let us not start fighting at each other and talk of this region versus this region. Let us develop our country so that whether you are in which village, you can do well. One of the things I used to admire about Americans, somebody will tell you, yes, somebody will tell you, I'm a professor in Indiana University. I went to school down the street in primary school. My high school is there. This has been my church. I now work here. Because life is possible in that village. He has no need of going to New York. So the friend he grew up with in high school are the one who are firemen, and they now can talk of our community because it's really their community. The friend he grew up with are now, some are the pastor, so he'll tell you, this is the same school I went to, the same church, this is the university, this is where I'm working. That is what first world means. You come to Kenya, sijui you grew up in Kisumu, you look for green pasture in Naivasha, then you look for other brown pasture in whatever. So you find patchwork. Now you are in Rongai, but if you hear something in Kuresoi, you'll move because we are hunting. And there is no permanency, and there is no security, and there is no coherence. And people, you cannot grow up with your friend and grow up all together because we are not in first world countries. So let's continue talking of Singapore, and the view is that each generation have its generational purpose and mission, whether to betray it or to meet it. This is our generational purpose. About future generation, we talk of future generation all the time, even in environment. Do we know what future generation will want in environment? But we assume they'll want good things. So yes, Singapore is for now and for future generation. Thank you.
I was saying that for me, when I hear the discourse around our aspirations, I hear frustration, impatience, and skepticism. And it's rational because for a long time, systems have not worked for us, and there has not been a consistency and a clarity of purpose. On the flip side, though, I am encouraged because I hear the same from our president. He's frustrated. Why are we here? Why should we continue being this way? It's like for a long time in Kenya, we've driven with the handbrake on. We have everything that we need, the capacity, the people. It's just we need to remove the handbrake. And the handbrake are the hindrances, the bad manners, the corruption, and all those things. And the aspiration to Singapore will be realized. That's my closing remark.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. And Dr. Chitunga, because I don't want Mwana to say I have bad manners, I will just come to him in 1 minute to give us some receipts. Do we need a reality check?
Not really. It's just, a few things. Now, first, I'm going to go quickly. So, yes, Kenya Power did get to 10 million. Actually, 10 million customers, 45,000. And the target is to get to 14 million by 2030. That's in 4 years. Last year, they added about 400,000 new customers to the grid. In terms of counties with the worst, with the lowest number of connectivities, we have a few, but Turkana is one of them. West Pokot is another. Homa Bay is there at 79.5%. The other two are above 85%. Mandera is there at 76%. Wajir is at 75%. Makueni is at 74%. And others that are below 30% in terms of connectivity rate are Isiolo, Marsabit, Samburu, to Tana River, and Kitui. Now, something that is very important to note is that our peak electricity demand reached the highest in December 2025. That's 2,439 megawatts. Now, that's 3.4 times less than Singapore. Singapore is at 7.9 gigawatts. A long way to go. The other thing that was mentioned was about the Thakwe Dam. Now, the Thakwe Dam has a total cumulative budget of about 82.21 billion. But the first phase that is sponsored by the AFDB and the government as well is at 42.36 billion. The government is contributing about 7 billion shillings, and the African Development Bank is injecting about 35.6 billion. For those of you who might be scratching your heads in terms of how much money it costs to create one spring, is about which said $5 million. That's about 644 million shillings. But also, the university is spending some 6-point-something billion shillings. That's $550 million to generate their own electricity. So if you're scratching your maths there, I hope I have helped you out. Now, there's a figure here. In terms of how much Kenya Power does spend, in terms of how much they've spent to maintain and modernize the infrastructure, as she said, it's a big problem. In the financial year 2024 alone, they spent 24.38 billion shillings. Now, to put that into perspective, that's about constructing 18,000 kilometers of tarmac. Now, I'm going to end there for today. Hopefully, we can continue this discussion further.
All right. Thank you so much. A warm round of applause for everyone in this room today. Thank you so much to you for making the time, and thank you to our debaters for keeping this conversation very honest, very constructive. I think it's evidenced by how much time we've taken that we cannot unpack all that in just 2 hours or maybe even 3 hours. But we will be coming to a town near you very soon for another one of these conversations. This discussion does not stop here today. It continues online. Remember, the hashtag to use is Youth Assembly Platform and First World Kenya. Thank you to our debaters, Dr. Chitunga, Joy Brenda Mdivo, Dr. Duncan Ojwang, and Michael Kirui. Thank you to Cooperative University for being such gracious host. Thank you to you. Thank you to you for being such a lovely, lovely, lovely audience. Thank you to the production crew for your patience. And from all of us here at DPAC, it is goodbye for now. Thank you.